Here Shankara describes the nature of an enlightened person. Normally, we identify ourselves with our body, mind and senses. But after knowing Brahman as our pure, unchanging consciousness, the enlightened person ceases to identify himself with his body and mind. He remains immersed in the bliss of Sat Chit Anand and becomes a Jivanmukta, meaning liberated while living, one who has abandoned or dropped all association with his body, mind and senses, having finished all worldly affairs and with no goals to achieve. Shankara uses the metaphor of lava becoming wasps. In ancient times, it was believed that wasp larvae were transformed into wasps due to continual experience of wasps in the nest. The metaphor suggests that when you practice continual reflection and contemplation, you figuratively become Brahman by realizing your true nature as pure, unchanging consciousness. The enlightened person still abides in the physical body, but the problems of his body and mind do not affect him anymore. After enlightenment, his identification moves from body and mind to Atma. He is no longer dependent on external and transient factors for peace, happiness and contentment, but is more comfortable with himself as Sat Chit Anand. Shankara echoes the story of Ramayana, of Lord Rama, who had to build a bridge to cross the ocean and reach Lanka, where he killed the demons Ravana and Kumbhakarna. Here the bridge is built with the teachings of Vedanta over the vast ocean of pain and suffering, destroying the demons of attraction and aversion. Rama finally reunites with his wife Sita. Here Sita represents Atma, pure consciousness, the source of all bliss inside. Like pilgrims, after traveling for many days, reach their religious site or temple, and when they stand in front of their deity, they close their eyes, indicating that all is inside, pure consciousness or Atma. An enlightened person is free from attachment to worldly pleasures, which are external and temporary, but is content with the eternal source of peace and happiness, Atma, and comfortable with himself as Sat Chit Anand. Shankara now gives the example of a burning lamp inside a closed vessel. Like the lamp of wisdom shines inside an enlightened person, but is not visible to the outside world. Only he knows and remains content and fulfilled with his experience, with no future plans or goals. Even though an enlightened person who has ridden himself of ignorance abides in a physical body, his knowledge of Brahman gives him the fundamental understanding of the reality of the universe. However, he behaves like an ordinary person and stays grounded and normal, like space, which remains unaffected by the clouds, like the wind, which blows over the good and bad, carries the fragrance of flowers as well as the unpleasant smell of manure, but is not affected by them. As a Jivanmukta, the enlightened person still experiences the limits of the body and mind. These experiences go away when, after exhausting all karma, his body dies and the enlightened merges completely into the all-pervasive consciousness, like water into water, like space into space, and like fire into fire. Shankara explains further that when water is poured into the ocean, it becomes non-separate from the ocean. It becomes the ocean. When a clay pot is broken, the space inside the pot merges with the space outside. The apparent separateness goes away. Also, when a fire burns, sparks go up in the air and display a separate entity of their own, but ultimately fall back into the fire and merge with it. In all these cases, water, space and fire continue to exist, undiminished and unabated, while their separateness comes to an end. Such is the transition of the enlightened at the time of death, attaining moksha, emancipation from the cycle of rebirth.